Okay, so it's now time for us to go ahead and work our way up to Operation Zero Tolerance, the next X-Men crossover I want to talk about soon on the channel. But as you all know, I love the idea of working our way up to the crossover, meaning that I love covering all the different stories that basically lead into that crossover. And so with that being said, the first storyline I'm going to talk about is Magneto's first solo series in the 1990s. Now, there are a few things I want to explain about when it comes to this Magneto, quotation marks around Magneto. Because around this time in Marvel Comics, you had this guy who called himself Joseph look just like Magneto. Let me explain. You see, there was an event called Fatal Attractions. You had Charles Xavier shut down the mind of Magneto in that event right there. Now, for Magneto, he had Colossus and his acolytes basically watch over him after that particular moment. But then, right after that, he disappeared because their spacecraft had basically crashed on Earth. And so for Colossus, he lost Magneto and had no idea where he went to. But then out of nowhere, this other character appeared named Joseph. He woke up one day, it's kind of like, who am I and where am I? But then over time, he began to learn that he was Magneto in the past. But the problem is that he does not remember anything from his past being Magneto. The only thing he does remember is just waking up one day in the middle of a field and be found by a woman and some kids. And so ever since that moment right there, it's been Joseph basically hearing all the bad things he did in the past as Magneto, but also being this great threat towards the X-Men. And so that is why, as you get into the opening pages of this storyline, we pick up with Joseph right now trying to look in the computer of the X-Men to figure out more about his past. Now, for the X-Men, they have been really trying their best to block out any information about what Magneto did in the past to the X-Men, but also to the world, just in case Joseph does slip back into his old role again. But the problem is, for Joseph, he wants to know so badly because it's his past that has basically been blocked from him. He needs to know who he truly was. So of course, it's him right now basically hacking into the computers of the Xavier School to learn more about his past. And that is when he learns that Avalon, his space station he had on Earth, above Earth, had basically crashed in a particular area. And so for Joseph, he's kind of like, I need to go there to kind of figure out more about my past. Now, while he's trying to look up more information about where Avalon had crashed at, you then have Rogue appear. Now, around this time in Marvel Comics, Rogue and Joseph were getting very close because her and Gambit had a few issues. But it's her right now being very upset about the fact that it's Joseph right now hacking into the computers of Xavier's School to learn more about his past. But he does explain, you don't understand. This is my past. I have the right to learn about it, but at the same time, it bothers me because I do not remember anything at all. And so she kind of sees that this is a man right now who just wants to know his own past, to learn more about himself. And so she does allow him to leave. And so you do have Joseph, being able to find what's left of Avalon. Now, while he's walking around the crash site, he does find all these different kind of shrines that were basically made as a way to pay respect to him. Because again, for Magneto, he was kind of like this god for some mutants. Matter of fact, let me explain real quick, because you do have Magneto be confronted by the Acolytes here. The Acolytes were a group of people who basically praised Magneto like their god, their great leader, that this man right here would lead the mutant race into a better future. And so, of course, when he does arrive, at first, they want to attack him. But then he said, hey guys, stop. I'm a mutant. I'm not here to fight against you. But you then have these different members of the Acolytes begin to realize that this Joseph person does look very similar to Magneto. They're kind of wondering, what in the world is truly going on here? Now, there is another group out there of acolytes, but being led by a different person, and that would be Exodus. Now, when it came to Marvel in the 1990s, they did not really try to explain the complete origin of Exodus, only gave us like small pieces here and there. But for Exodus, he was Magneto's right-hand man when Avalon was still in space. We still had Magneto being, well, Magneto. But of course, you have this group right here believe that, well, Magneto is officially gone. And so for Exodus, he's now the one in charge of the acolytes, the ones right now with him. Now, with that being said, one of his acolytes has just caught Amalia Vault, and I really hope I pronounce her name correctly for once. But for Amalia here, she tried her best to stop Exodus, and here's the reason why. Because right now, he is building a brand new Avalon, and as soon as it does take off, it's going to cause a major problem for the rest of the world, basically causing earthquakes, floods, you name it, happening across the entire world when this massive aircraft or spacecraft does take off. And so for Amalia, her main goal was to basically stop him, kind of like, listen, we cannot kill innocent people. Magneto wouldn't want that. But for Exodus, he said yes, he would, because for Magneto, his main goal was to protect the mutant race. And sooner or later, knowing Magneto, he would reach this point right here as a way to protect the mutant race. Now, when you do have basically Exodus trying to kill off Amalia, at the very last second, she is saved by Fabian Cortez. Now, Fabian Cortez was an acolyte, but here's the thing. He's always scheming, trying to find different ways to put himself in some kind of position of power. And so for Fabian Cortez, it's him right now coming back here and basically begging for forgiveness. This comes after he already betrayed Magneto like twice, and also Exodus as well. But either way, it's him begging for forgiveness, saying that he realized what he did in the past was completely wrong. But it's also him saying like, hey, listen, don't kill off Amalia. Like, listen, I beg you, please let her live. Now for Exodus, he allows Fabian to rejoin the acolytes, but also he does spare Amalia's life. Now for Fabian Cortez, we have to remember he's always scheming. So for Amalia, she realized there's something up his sleeve at the moment. Now, I do want to transition back over to Joseph. And here's the reason why. Because for Joseph right now, is him seeing all these different acolytes beginning to praise him. Like, oh my God, our Messiah has returned. Like, this is the second coming of Magneto. Like, he will lead us into safety. This is beautiful. This is great. But for Joseph, he's more of like, I don't get it. Like, these guys praise me as some kind of god, but at the same time, these people want to attack humans. Like, that right there is strange. And so for Joseph, with him spending time with the X-Men, he's kind of like, listen, I get the idea that you guys believe I can lead you guys to safety, but what about working with the humans to build harmony between the two groups? Because I have been with the X-Men for a good while now, and that's their goal they're trying to achieve. But for the acolytes, they have been with Magneto in the early 1990s. So in their mind, whatever the X-Men believe is going to lead to the end of the mutant race. And so right now, they're kind of like, no, you are mistaken. The X-Men ways are the wrong way to go. And matter of fact, you do have some of the acolytes bring up the fact that there are now new weapons out there being used as a way to bring down mutants. And for example, you have the Razors arrive. Now, the Razors are basically these robot suits being controlled by two people at the same time to fight against the mutant race. And for the Acolytes, apparently they had some dealing with the Razors over time before Joseph had arrived. But you do have one appear. Now, for Joseph, he does use his powers as a way to fight back, but this is not Joseph being Magneto and just going ahead and killing off these guys. No. This is Joseph trying his best to find a peaceful way, but kind of realize he can't do that. And so you do have Joseph just go ahead and like defeat the robot, but you do have the two guys inside the robot basically retreat. Now, once they do leave, for the acolytes, they look at Magneto again as their messiah, their protector, their God, because look at what he just did for us. He protected us from that robot. He is back. But for Joseph, he is not ready to lead a group like this in a way of some kind of sick religion, or him saying like, I can't lead you guys like the way you want me to, because I'm not that guy that you guys remember. But for a brief moment, we do jump back over to Amalia, who's currently a prisoner for Exodus right now. But you have Amalia talk to, Fabian Cortez. And of course, it's her thinking Fabian as a way to saving her life. But then she tells him about Joseph. And so this begins Fabian trying to scheme in a way to put himself in some kind of position of power. And so as we do transition back over to Joseph, you have Joseph find, Avalon. And of course, this part of Avalon belonged to Magneto, his quarters. And so you do have Joseph open up this place. Once he does go inside, he finds this video of Magneto. And just hearing the voice of Magneto, hearing what he had to say about what to do for the acolytes, the mutants, and the humans, for Joseph, he can't believe that this man right here was him in the past. Like, it is completely a different person. And so, of course, he does get more upset with himself. But then he's confronted by Fabian Cortez. Now, this is Fabian Cortez not even telling Joseph about their past with one another. Because again, for Joseph, he was an acolyte, but he had portrayed Magneto in the past. But this is Joseph coming to Magneto and saying like, hey, listen, so there is this guy better known as Exodus, who's right now trying to do something big in your name because he still believes and looks at you as his God, his protector, this great, powerful being. But the thing is, if Avalon, his new Avalon, takes off, that can bring a lot of crazy things to happen across the entire world, killing off innocent people. Now, for Joseph, at first, he's kind of like, I can't do anything about that. Like, I can't fight back as a guy right there. I don't know what to do. But at the same time, it's Fabian using his words, saying like only Magneto can save the world before a bunch of innocent people die. And so because of that right there, you have Joseph say, you know what? Fine. It's time for me to be Magneto as a way to stop Exodus. And so that is why, as we dive into the second chapter, what you're seeing right now is Joseph in the Magneto suit. So it's Joseph trying to put himself back in that role where if they do confront Exodus, there's a possibility that he'll believe that Joseph is Magneto. Because for Joseph, and I kind of forgot to mention this, for Joseph, he is younger looking than, the Magneto we saw back in Fatal Attraction. So for some people out there, they're kind of like, are you Magneto or you're somebody else? Like, how in the world did you get younger? But either way, for Joseph right now, is him trying to pretend to be Magneto, and is Fabian trying his best to motivate Joseph to keep going like, no, you're getting there. Don't worry. Sooner or later, you'll make folks believe that you are the man that you used to be. But that is when you have the acolytes arrive. Now, when the acolytes do arrive, it's basically them right now kind of really telling Joseph here about Fabian Cortez, because for Joseph, he does not remember Fabian. He has no idea that Fabian had tried to kill him in the past. And so once he does learn that, he does get very upset at Fabian, but also upset with the acolytes as well who wanted to attack Fabian. And so once you have Joseph kind of show his anger in his voice, it's kind of like, oh my God, he's showing the acolytes a small glimpse of him in the past when he was Magneto. He had everyone stop in the room. And now for Joseph, he's kind of like, Fabian, you came here and made me believe that you came here to basically help me, to help you stop Exodus. But now I'm kind of wondering, why are you really here? Because you tried to kill me supposedly in the past. But it's Fabian saying like, sir, I changed my ways. I am a better person now. I only came here to basically help you to stop, Exodus. Now, we do pick up with a character known as Julian Armstrong. Now, for Julian Armstrong, he was one of the two guys in the robot, that Razor robot that attacked in the last chapter. And so for Julian, it's him right now wanting to kind of go back once again and try to bring down Magneto. He wants to kill off Joseph. And the reason why, because in the past, Magneto had killed off his brother. But of course, for Joseph, he answers to two people. That would be somebody known as Trask and also the General. Now, here's the thing, because for Trask, we don't know which one it is, but apparently he is right now working with the General. And so with them now having a location of where Magneto could possibly be at, he wouldn't use Armstrong to go after Magneto. No, he wants to use missiles and blow that area up. But you also have Joseph getting ready to head over to where Exodus is at. Except before he does, Fabian says you need to take these acolytes with you. They want to be guided by you. They want to be your followers all over again. And so, of course, for Joseph, he kind of realized he has to continue the idea of being their Messiah, being their great God, their great leader. But that is when we do transition back over to Exodus. And he realized that Fabian had disappeared. We now know where he's at, but for Exodus, he has no idea. But he believes that Amalia knows where Fabian had ran off to. And so you have Exodus saying, listen, you better tell me. If not, it's only going to get worse for you. Now, for Amalia, she's trying her best to not tell him anything, but he then pulls out this alien parasite that has the ability to suck your blood out, but also put poison in your body and lay eggs as well inside your body. It's his own way in interrogating her to get the information that he is currently looking for. But getting back over to Joseph, it's Joseph right now getting his group ready to head over to the Arctic to fight against Exodus, or to at least try to talk to him to stop him. But before they leave, they have a few questions like, hey, Magneto, what about our enemies here? Like the ones who attacked us earlier, the Razors. Now, of course, for Magneto, he's kind of like, I don't know what to say here. But you have Fabian say, Joseph, you need to tell them to go ahead and attack their enemies, to get rid of them. That kind of shows them that you are a man of power, a man he's scared of. Then they will most likely follow you over to the Arctic. And so, of course, that's what Joseph says to do. Now, while they're trying to do that, you did have everyone realize that one of their own is currently missing. And the reason why, because Julian Armstrong had took that acolyte as a prisoner. Now, for the acolytes, they're kind of hoping that Magneto would just go ahead and basically kill this guy off because he's a human. Once a human goes against one of their own, that human has to die. But for Joseph, he's not in the idea of killing people. This is a man who still kind of believes what the X-Men believe, to find a peaceful way to fix the world. And so, of course, even though right now one of his acolytes might get their head blown off, he's trying his best to find the best way to get out of this situation. And so, of course, he does use his powers as a way to shut down the mind of Julian. And so for Julian, he did get injured earlier when he came to his situations against Joseph. And so with his injuries, he's on the verge of death. But he's kind of surprised to see that Joseph did not kill him off. And so for Julian, he's kind of like, why in the world did you keep me alive for? Like, are you trying to be forgiven for your past mistakes, your past sins? You can't do that. Now, it's also Julian telling Joseph, like, hey, I hate you. I want to watch you die because you killed off my brother. Now, it's also Julian kind of like, listen, even though I'm going to die, we're all going to die sooner or later. Don't worry, you're going to join me here soon. Now, you do have Julian basically die there, but after he dies, you have Joseph find Julian's wallet, being able to figure out that, well, Julian had a family. And so for Joseph, he's kind of like, okay, you know what? I should go tell his family that their husband, their father, is no longer around. But then you have Fabian Cortez walk into the room. And with Fabian Cortez, he's bringing up the fact that once again for the acolytes, they're kind of like, hey, listen, even though we've seen like small glimpse of you being your old self, being Magneto, we still don't believe that you are our savior, our God, our leader. And so for Joseph, he's trying his best to convince them that he is Magneto, even though he's trying to not be Magneto. He had a hard time deciding what he should actually do here. But while he tries to listen to why these acolytes do not believe that he is the man that he used to be, you have Joseph kind of realize they're all in danger. Because earlier Julian said it won't matter anymore. We're all going to die here sooner or later. So basically it was him saying like, hey, even after I die, don't worry. I'm going to see you in the afterlife because we're all going to die here soon. What he meant by that was when it came to Trask in the general, they had fired missiles towards that location where Joseph is at. And so, of course, those missiles are now arriving. And really for Joseph, this is great. And the reason why, because with these missiles being here, you now have Joseph being able to be that hero, being able to protect these acolytes who are currently in danger at the moment. And so once you do have Joseph being able to get rid of those missiles just like that, he has the acolytes back on his side again. They're kind of like, oh my God, he's our savior. He protected us. He did all this for us. Like he is our great king, our great God. Now for Joseph, he's kind of like, okay, cool. Whew, I was able to save lives without killing people. This is great. But you have Fabian realize what's going on in the mind of Joseph. That Joseph right now is battling two sides of him, Magneto and Joseph. And both sides are completely different from one another. And for Fabian, he kind of realized this might cause him problems down the road when it comes to his plans. But with the acolytes now back on his side, it's now time to head over to Exodus. Now you do have Joseph go out of his way to create this aircraft as a way to fly over to the Arctic, but it's Joseph saying like, first, we gotta make a quick stop. Now, here's the problem though, because that stop he's gonna make is a stop over to where Julian's family is at to basically tell them like your father, your husband had died. Now that conversation will go south very quickly here, but they do leave. And so to close on the second chapter, it's now us picking up with Exodus. And it's Exodus saying like, okay, I have now heard about this Joseph person. This Joseph person has to go. I have to get rid of him. And so now for Exodus here, he's planning to kill off Joseph because he looks at Joseph as a false god, a false king, somebody pretending to be his great leader. And so this kind of leads into Joseph basically stopping by to pay a visit over to, well, Julian's family. Now for Joseph, he's trying his best to change the story of how Julian basically died. Like for example, when it comes to Julian's son, he's kind of like, hey, did my father die by the hands of a mutant? And you have Joseph say, well, yes, Julian was fighting against a group of mutants, but no, it was not the mutants who had killed off your father. No, it was a mechanical failure with his tech. And so unfortunately, he died that way. But before he died, he gave me a message. Now, before you have Joseph being able to give that message, Julian's son says, doesn't matter. my father still died because of mutants. If there were no mutants, my father would not be out there basically fighting against the mutant race. So already at a young age, this young boy has so much hatred towards the mutant race because of his father, but also because he lost his uncle. Because remember, Julian said Magneto killed off his brother, but it's also Joseph saying like, well, listen, Julian also told me this when he died. He wants you guys to go in a different direction. That basically, he don't want you guys to get revenge for his death. Matter of fact, he realized this whole stupid war between mutants and humans is basically endless. He'd rather see you guys go in the path of love. Now, of course, Joseph is flat out lying. And matter of fact, Julian's family, they know he's lying. The young boy knows, no, my father hated mutants so much, there's no way he would just change his mind just like that. And you didn't have the boy kind of realize that most likely this guy, Joseph, is the mutant. And maybe this guy is the reason why, which is his father's no longer around. And so you have him make a whole entire scene in the middle of their neighborhood. And so for Joseph, he has to leave. He gets away, but yeah, he's kind of like, man, that was a huge mistake. But as we do switch back over to Exodus, is him right now getting ready to basically, fight against Magneto, Joseph. He's kind of like, guys, listen, get everything ready. Just in case Joseph does arrive, I want to be ready to fight against him, but also it's him making sure they're ready to leave, to fly out in space, but to also kill off the human race as well. And now, once again, as we switch back over to Joseph, it's him kind of realizing that he can't be Magneto. He can't be that guy because he's not that guy who went through all the different trials that Magneto has gone through to become that person. Matter of fact, that line right there I just said will become very important in the later parts of this storyline. But it's Joseph kind of like, I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy they need right now. I can't be Magneto. There's no way to be so cruel. And he's kind of like, you guys have put so much faith in me, but the thing is, I don't believe I can do this. And so he walks away. But as we jump back over to Julian's family, we see them now having a conversation with Trask. Now, again, we have no idea which one this is, but for Trask, it's him right now leaving the family after gathering information that Joseph was there. But it's also him getting word that the acolytes are most likely right now in the Arctic. And of course, they're talking about Exodus group right now. Now, when it comes to Joseph, he's getting close to New Avalon, but you also have Exodus wanting to use their defenses as a way to blow Magneto and his acolytes out of the sky. But you didn't have Exodus say no. Because what if there is a possibility that man is my great king, my great God, my great leader? I can't do that. So, of course, he does not. He allows Joseph and his acolytes to land on New Avalon. But when you do have Magneto and his crew arrive at New Avalon, well, Avalon begins to go in the sky. Now, once it does that, New Avalon begins to send out or transmit codes across the world. And of course, Larry Trask and the general, well, basically right now, they pick up on that signal. So now they know where the acolytes, where Joseph and also Exodus are currently at. And so this leads into the meeting. You got Joseph, you got Exodus meeting one another. I forgot his name. But with the two characters meeting one another, is Exodus allowing Joseph to kind of show like, okay, you claim to be Magneto. You claim to be our great God, our great leader. Then show me. Show me you're that guy. Show me you are that great leader we need currently. And so you do have Joseph try his best to be that guy for Exodus and his acolytes by showing how strong he is in the mind, in his voice, the way he walks, the way he moves, to show that, yes, I am your God and your leader. But you didn't have Joseph say, hey, so listen, Avalon is not going to launch anytime soon. Like, matter of fact, wait here until I say otherwise. Now, for Exodus, he's kind of like, how dare you? Like, you were gone. We spent so much time to rebuild what you have built for us in the past. And now we are able to give it back to you. And now you want to get rid of it? Now, for Joseph, he does continue to show that strength in his voice, that he is that man in charge. But here comes the big problem. You see, earlier, Fabian Cortez told Joseph, like, oh, by the way, you are also madly in love with Amalia Vault. And so, of course, for Joseph, when he sees Amalia, he tries to use her as a way to convince everyone that, yes, it's him, Magneto, the man who was supposedly in love with Amalia. The thing is, Magneto was never in love with Amalia. And so when he goes to kiss her, just like that, you have Exodus realize this is not their guy. This is not Magneto. And so, of course, he attacks him. When it comes to this battle, you do have Exodus be the one to be able to kind of win the battle. And here's the thing for me, though. It's really more of Joseph kind of holding back because he's not really allowing himself to show his true power, to tap into his full potential. But you do have a civil war basically break out. It's Magneto and his acolytes fighting against Exodus and his acolytes. And so while this battle goes on, you do have Exodus being able to be the one to basically defeat Joseph. Now, Joseph is not dead. Because right after that, you didn't have Fabian Cortez kind of pretend like, okay, listen, I had no idea that guy was not Magneto. I believe he was Joseph. Amalia lied to me. It's Fabian trying to stay in that position where sooner or later he'll find a way to gain the power of position again by staying on the Exodus good side. But later on that night, you have Joseph return. When he does return, this is Joseph no longer thinking and pretending or acting that he is Magneto. This is the man who's now fully committed to switch over into that role to say, yes, I am Magneto. So that is why as we enter the final chapter of the storyline, we're truly picking up with Magneto, Joseph being Magneto. Like, it's him now truly believing that he is Magneto. Now for Exodus, he's kind of like, listen, I already proved you wrong once. Like, we battled, you lost to me. There's no way you are Magneto. But you didn't have Joseph go out of his way to begin to attack Exodus, to kind of be like, no, I am Magneto. I am that guy. And you have Fabian Cortez. You have Amalia realize that, yeah, for Joseph, he truly does believe now that he is Magneto. Now for Amalia, she feels like that right there is dangerous. And the reason why, because now it's two different personalities fighting for control over the body of this man. There's Joseph and there's also Magneto. The question is right now, who's going to win? And it does seem like right now it's going to be the side of Magneto. Now for Trask and also for the general, they had already fired missiles towards the Arctic. So of course, sooner or later, those missiles are going to be able to hit the Arctic and most likely kill off everyone there in the Arctic right now. All the acolytes, Joseph, Exodus, they're all about to be hit really hard. But we do see Fabian Cortez kind of go out of his way to try to silence Amalia because she does kind of figure out like what Fabian is trying to do. Now, here's the thing, because while he's trying to do that, the other acolytes walk into the room. And for all the acolytes, they know Fabian Cortez. They know what he wants to do. Get back into a position of power again. And so, of course, while you do have Fabian get distracted for a brief moment, you do have Amalia being able to sucker punch him, allowing her to be free once again. But while you have the battle go on between Magneto and also Exodus, you have Magneto realize, okay, cool, here comes these jets who are about to deliver missiles into this area. Now for Exodus, for a brief moment, he truly believes that Joseph is working with those jet flyers, but in reality, he's not. And so you have Magneto silence Exodus and try to figure out how to get rid of the brand new enemies who had just appeared. Now for Magneto, it's him right now not trying to kill off these pilots because is him still being Joseph somewhat. But it's Exodus right now in his corner, whispering in his ear, like, go ahead, kill them all, show them who's more powerful, show them the mutant race have the right to overcome the human race. But while you have basically Exodus doing that, Amalia realized if Joseph does kill off anybody, he's going to snap. He will then become the true Magneto. And so you have Amalia go out of her way to take out the pilots. Matter of fact, she launches them out of their own jets. And so when that happens, Magneto will no longer try to kill them at all. Instead, now he can just focus on their missiles to get rid of them. But also now he cannot be labeled as a killer. Now, you do have the general inform Trask, like, listen, if this new Avalon does lift off the ground, we are all basically screwed here because that thing has the ability to cause disasters across the entire world. But for Trask, he no longer wants to stop this new Avalon from launching. And the reason why, because he can use this moment right here as a way to bring the human race together even more, to then go after the mutants, to basically say, let's go ahead and kill them off. He's trying to use this as a way to bring more hatred towards the mutant race, even though millions of innocent lives will most likely be lost. And so this leads into a conversation with Amalia where you have her show Magneto all these different pictures. With these pictures, it's basically her kind of saying like, you can't be Magneto because Magneto went through a lot. There was the Holocaust. There was losing his brothers, his sister, his mother, his father. He got married. He lost his daughter. He lost so much. But everything he lost made him the man he is today. So you can't be Magneto because you didn't really live through those moments. He did, but not you. And so because of that, it kind of brings Magneto back, or sorry, Joseph here back into reality. It's kind of like, you know what? She's right. I can't be that man because that man went through things that I technically did not go through or don't remember. And so with him is now him realizing he can no longer be Magneto. He must just be Joseph. But there's one more thing he has to do as Magneto, where it's him going ahead and just breaking up the Acolyte group, saying like, hey guys, listen, the Acolytes are no more. Just go your separate ways. Go across the world. It's him being able to get rid of this group that's been a problem for X-Men and really the human race for a good while now in X-Men comics, to kind of put this group right now on the back burner. But once he's able to disband this group, he finally goes back over to the school of Charles Xavier, where we do see him being able to come home to Rogue. Now, with these two characters, we're kind of left to believe still there is a possibility they might get together. But now his head is clear. Now he knows what person to be, and that would be Joseph. But either way, the book does kind of end on that note, but there's still one more page left. You see, for Julian's wife, she hated what Joseph did, but at the same time, it's her kind of realizing that thanks to her husband, Julian, her son right now is on the same path as her husband. And she's afraid of the fact that he might end up dead like his father. So now it's up to her to kind of push her son in a better direction. And so with that being said, guys, this is where we're going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.